Now we're going to move up to the next class, which is the traditional Steeler. This is the same plate as the Steeler from back in the late 80s, early 90s, but there are a couple little refinements. I'll show you up here. You can really see that they're extremely close, but this thing is just, it's just really beefy. There are a lot of other differences too. A big one is that arced plate right there. That is a huge difference. That lets all of these saddles remain the same exact height. The slots to where you can move it around, as opposed to having to take out an Allen bolt, move it. There are other things, but we'll get into those as we move along.
Access from the top for to move it with a left-handed screw.
Yeah, why don't you demonstrate that?
This screw is going up and down backwards, so that's a left-handed 1032 thread. And both in this part and this part, so that we can move that all the way around and set it wherever we want it based on that slot on the back. See if I can show that. Yeah, of that stainless steel screw.
Another thing is that the bar has a clutch in it, whereas this Floyd Rose, you know, if you want it, you just loosen that up and it can swing, or you tighten it up and then it's tight. But as we all know, as you keep on moving this around, it starts getting looser and looser, and then you're going to have to reach in there and tighten it again.
Only one height.
That's another thing too. Why don't you show them the clutch?
This is important to note that this clutch is adjusted from the bottom, but once you set it, it can just stay that way. Now the other thing is that this bar has height adjustment. Now let's say that this is in the high position.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's very high. Threads are showing and everything.
Yeah, it's very high. Now, I can let it swing however I want, how they want it. Or I can tighten it up. You put it wherever you want it. Okay? However, this is a very high bar. Now, some people like high. Some people want them to be lower. So what we can do is take the bottom clutch, unscrew this clutch screw, screw this down to the height that you want. Let's say you want it that low. It'll still go a quarter of a step lower, quarter of an inch lower. So we're going to loosen up the underside, and we're still going to go lower. Now that's about the same, I think, as the Rose bar right there.
Probably pretty close. Let's
I
compare.
think it's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it right there.
Or it can even go lower. In any case, in the low position, you can let it swing, or you can tighten it up with the clutch, and sure enough, you can put it wherever you want it to be. You have clutching height adjustment of over a half an inch. I mean, you can put that wherever you want it to be.
That's a lot.
This was a very big issue when we first come out. We didn't have that feature, and then we found that there was many people that wanted that bar different heights, and they couldn't get it there.
I honestly have never seen that, and I own two Steelers already, and I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, well, we didn't do a real good job of putting everything out there telling, but I will tell you that on Fender Strats, there was 30 to 35,000 of these actually sold. So you'll see a lot of Steelers on Fender Strats from about 12, 15 years ago. But this is a new issue with new ideas. We've got better fine tuners on it. We've got a two-way clutch, and to set the height bar. Plus, we went with a left-handed screw here. Now, the other deal is that we have the push lock here.
Push lock is pretty clever. Why don't you illustrate that with a separate?
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got the little square block there. If you open this up far enough, that will drop out. We made one exactly like that under license a long time ago. And that was the first version of what we did. But then we've improved it since then. First of all, this is what we call a push block. And you can move this back and forth with your finger. And something else I want to show is that you can really move it back and forth a long ways without it ever falling out because of the way it's engineered. Now you cut the ball off the string and you put it into this little slot right here because that slot will guide it into the vise. You hold that in with your thumb like that while tightening the back here. Now, it's important, of course, that these tighten up and that they are solid so that when this comes over, that isn't going to go anywhere.
A nice feature too is that there's the slot in there.
Yeah, because it helps guide it into the middle of the locking mechanism. And it gives you a clear ID as to where that string is going because you can see it.
We've got this slot right here that will guide the string, but a lot of times when you put this thing in, it won't quite be dead center. And sometimes, especially on the heavier strings like your low E or something, if it's off just a little bit, then all of a sudden your block is cocked. And that cannot happen with that slot. We're gonna back this up as far as it'll go.
Yep.
Okay, so that right there, the screw can come all the way out, but there's no need to take it back any further because it's touching the wall right now. You have all the space in the world. All the space in the world to much more than you need. And you hold the thing upside down, and I can hold the thing upside down and flip-flop it. And that's the effort that it took.
Yep.
To get the thing out. Whereas if you just turn a regular Floyd upside down and it's even just a little loose. So if we've got it not quite all the way out, there's no coming out.
That slot puts that wire right in the middle of the locking so the wire doesn't get swedged into one corner.
Yes.
And we've all had that, and we've had to unlock them and pick that piece of wire out of there, and that's pretty hard to do. You're not going to have that problem with this, so I think we've solved that problem.
And that's pretty much everything about the traditional, right? Except for the fact that there's also an auto-latch version.
Yep.
So you can get it no auto-latch or an auto-latch. Now the auto-latch doesn't have the clutch, right?
It doesn't because this is too sharp to put the clutch on. However, it could be put in here, but it would have to be much shorter. And I've got to say that on the auto-latch arm, you have about 1/4 of an inch in height adjustment, where on the other arm, you've got almost 1/2 inch height adjustment.
Well, again, with the auto-latch, you know, down like that, pointed at 6 o'clock is locked. And it can go anywhere else. You know, you can aim it to the back and flutter or whatever. And this is something I like to do, is just use 2 springs, which makes it feel so slinky.
Sure. And then this sets right between the 2 springs, so that it goes into that slot and sets right between, and you have the 2 springs and stretch them out.
Yep. Well, you're sideways.
Yeah, let me, it's a little bit, there we go.
Now it's upside down.
That's funny, isn't it? We're doing things, just a second. I think that's it right there.
That's it right there. And there you go. Now
it just
it's locked.
locks it right there. It ain't going to move.
It's
No
not-
matter what, it's not going to move because, and I might point out too that this little plate right here, if it does wear, it's replaceable with 2 screws right here. you take it out and put a new swedge plate in. Remember, you can index this wherever you want it as to where the in-tuneness is and where you set this, and it will lock in place.
I think that's it for this one.
Okay.
So next will be the Steeler Pro. So